Hi guys, Coach Castle here from Castle's Corner, and today we're going to be going over the biomechanics of the squat. Now, before I get into that, I'm going to go ahead and start this by saying that I know biomechanics can sound really intimidating and scary to a lot of people. It's a big word. It's not a big thing though. I'm lucky. I'm a fortunate person who was able to grasp the concepts very rapidly. But I know that most people have a little bit of difficulty understanding biomechanics. Sadly, and very frustratingly, and it pisses me off quite a bit, I find that most physical therapists, doctors, and even the so-called best personal trainers and coaches do not seem to have any idea what biomechanics means, which I find disturbing. Now, since the internet is a wonderful thing, which I constantly praise, but it is also given everyone, no matter how qualified they may be, a platform and a voice, some people have decided to stop thinking about biomechanics altogether, even though this is nothing new. So, let's ask the question. Do biomechanics matter? Well, in my opinion, that's an uneducated question. It's a very stupid question. It's quite literally the same thing as asking, does gravity matter? Yes, it does, everyone. I'll get to the squat in a second. Biomechanics refers to the forces and the displacement of physical bodies, mechanics, that are alive, bio. Even plants, by the way, deal with biomechanics. The point is, biomechanics refers to everything that is alive and also subjected to gravity. And just so we're clear, that is all of you. Unless you're some kind of a bizarre alien which does not have standard human anatomy and neurology. Which I don't think you are. I don't know. Now, the reason I will find myself repeating this constantly is people will attempt to debate me about biomechanics. Now, there is no debate. None. It is simply opinion versus science, and we all know opinion is completely meaningless without backing data. What's my point? The point is, biomechanics are always at play in your life, and everything you do, whether you freaking like it or not, and yes, that includes exercise. There is an inanimate physical world out here. It's made up of forces, masses and accelerations, displacements, vectors, and there is a living organism, you, interacting with that world. These laws apply to you. In the case of humans, that organism includes a thinking brain and a very complex nervous system, which also must be taken into account. So, you understand, and most people should understand, if you have a basic 8th grade grasp of physics and 2nd grade grasp of math, regardless of the weight that is actually being held, lift, pushed, or pulled, the operating lever, the limb, also known as the bone, or perhaps series of bones, always magnifies that amount of resistance. So, obviously, your bones are levers. It's obvious. Now, there are additional factors which alter the resistance. I mean, increasing it or decreasing it, that is. But it's important to understand that muscles never pull directly on weights. Never. They pull on the levers, or the bones, which are holding the weights. And this does happen in accordance with the laws of physics. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about one last thing before squats. How ignorance and ego are completely ruining your progress, and maybe tradition as well. It's very stupid to assume that the heavier weight you are moving, the more you are loading a muscle. That's just ridiculous. You can load a muscle more with less weight based on the kind of physics you're using. So, if you're using a longer lever, you're magnifying the weight much more than if you'd be using a shorter lever, obviously. If you're trying to pick up a large boulder with a lever that's 2 feet long, it is going to be much harder than if you're trying to use a lever that is 8 feet long. If you have better alignment, you're magnifying the weight much more. So, when you actually go to move the boulder, if you put the lever in an optimum position to move the boulder, it'll be much better than if you're just randomly stabbing underneath the boulder and hoping the fucking thing moves, which is how most personal trainers will train you, by the way. Now, these things are all very easily understood, and these all apply to all of the muscles in your body in every exercise that you do. Now, when you're using these levers, and you're using a long lever to lift up a big rock, basically what this means is if you're able to lift a lot of weight in the gym, you are simply using ineffective mechanisms and damaging your body and recoverability. So it basically means that you are lifting the weight up with a crowbar, but every time you use that crowbar to lift the weight, it gets more cracked and more damaged, and it doesn't grow. I mean, in this case, the crowbar would have muscle. The heavier the weight feels, the more effective the mechanics are. So, an example. If you can load your side deltoid maximally with 30 or 40 pounds when doing a standing lateral raise, which you shouldn't do, and you then tell me you think it would be better to overhead press 150 pounds because it's more weight, so you feel like more of a badass or something, I don't understand, then you are completely missing the point of everything I just said. And it would shock you, probably, and you wouldn't believe me, to know that you would get the same exact results as you were getting swinging that 30 and 40 pound dumbbells laterally, as you could get performing it correctly with an 8-pound weight. You get the same results, but you wouldn't be distorting your joints and damaging yourself. Now, let me explain more about why the squat is bad. We're going to start with compound movements. Obviously, the squat is a compound movement. Now, a compound movement is a multi-joint, multi-muscle movement that some people would refer to as functional movement, which is fucking stupid because it suggests that something that is not compound is dysfunctional. It's not, it's better. So, this would suggest that, say, if you do isolation exercises, somehow your body is not going to be able to coordinate all of its various muscle strengths at the same time because they've never done it before. This is stupid and false and has been disproven well over 40 years ago, I think. Yes, it is true that if you are doing chin-ups, you will get skilled at chin-ups because you're practicing a movement pattern neurologically, sorry. This does not necessarily mean that you are building your back muscles or biceps effectively. It just means that you're learning a skill and you're getting better at a skill. Again, you won't be building muscle. You'll be building some, but it's not effective. Sorry, I misspoke. If you're looking to coordinate all of the muscles that participate in that movement in a particular event and have the idea that because it's a compound movement, that would then make you better able to use those participating muscles as compared to isolation exercises. It has no logic or fact or science or anything behind it whatsoever to support those claims. It's bro science. These are morons who don't know what they're talking about. Now, everyone has an opinion on squats, and I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings with this video. And here's the thing about all these opinions. All these opinions are complete and utter bullshit, and they mean nothing. Literally, they mean nothing. They're opinions. I do not base my training or anything else I do in my life based on somebody's fucking opinion. I do it based on research and fact. When I was a child, I did it on opinions. When I was a teenager, I listened to dumbasses. I've since learned better. Anyone who chooses to argue this with me has clearly never looked at an anatomy chart and clearly has no understanding of 8th grade physics. This person should not be a personal trainer. It is absolutely impossible to debate facts with somebody who is only going to debate you with their opinion and their beliefs, because they're always going to be right in their head. It's impossible to debate you when all you're going to give me is your belief and your opinion about something which you have no factual data about. Basically, it means you're being closed-minded, traditional, and emotional monkey who does not actually have any interest whatsoever in learning and bettering themselves. And of course, if you are a personal trainer or a coach helping their clients, your primary concern should be helping them the most effective way possible, not stroking your fucking ego. Now, I've been getting a lot of hate mail from these ridiculous Instagram coaches, personal trainers, and gurus who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and frankly, they disgust me because they won't even take 1 month of their times to learn something which is supposed to be their profession, which is supposed to be their job that they do every day to help others. But they're too fucking lazy to learn something for 1 month. Really? Really? You have no business being a trainer. If any of them were serious about helping themselves and their clients, they would actually take the time to learn something new that would benefit them instead of simply hating it without looking at evidence and facts, which are everywhere. And once again, no, just because everyone else has done it doesn't make it good. Just because all of the top bodybuilders do it doesn't make it good. Just because he said, she said does not make it good. You sound like a parrot. You have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I have seen the training plans from these personal coaches and these online coaches and these trainers. I've seen many of them from my clients. They have little to no rhyme or reason. They're based entirely on bro science, and they do not even discuss the basics of exercise to you, basically keeping you chained to them until you find a new trainer. Sorry for the rant. So back to the squat. The squat is a compound exercise, but so you understand, it basically involves 2 natural movements plus the back. We're not going to talk about the back for this though. So I want to talk about hip extension and knee extension. Both of which, by the way, have much, much better versions for muscle growth and for strengthening. Now, they make maximal use of your levers as well as a proper resistance curve, so you don't need to do the squat. Now, in physics, any lever that is parallel to the direction of resistance is a neutral lever. Okay? Neutral lever. It is a neutral lever because gravity is pushing straight down upon it, no matter the angle, as long and is parallel with resistance. So if you have cables, you're basically changing the direction of gravity, for example. Let's imagine a Highlander guy in a kilt, and he's at the Highland Games, and he was about to do one of those log throws where they throw the telephone pole. Now, that log is only able to be held in the palms of his hands, up tight and very close to his body, also in a straight line, which is parallel with gravity. This is due to the fact that gravity is pushing right down on it, so he can actually hold it. So basically it's a very heavy weight. His fingers are clasped, so they're not going to come apart. He's standing perfectly straight and braced, so his entire body is a neutral lever. He doesn't really have to do too much except brace. Now with the weight cupped in his hands like that and going straight up, gravity's pushing down, making it a second neutral lever. So it's basically a neutral lever stacked on top of a second neutral lever. Now it'd be fairly easy to maintain that position for, a short period of time, provided you've been, training in some manner. Even untrained, you could do it if you balanced it. However, as soon as that log starts to tip forward or, any other direction out of alignment with gravity, it would suddenly become impossible for this Highlander fella to maintain his control on it, because he'd be holding a telephone pole that was suddenly tipping forward, and that's not going to end well. Hopefully nobody's in front of it. So a lever that is parallel to gravity, or whatever the resistance is going to be a neutral lever. And one that is perpendicular to gravity, or whatever you happen to be using for resistance, is going to be what I call a 100% lever, a maximally active lever. So in the case of the fellow at the Scottish Games, the Highlander Games I think they're called, no matter how strong an individual he would be completely unable to hold that log out parallel with the ground. Of course, no human could perform this feat as long as because it's a very long, heavy log and lever, and nobody could do that. It's not possible. But he can, of course, hold it parallel with gravity. So, when you look at a squat and you realize that the lower leg is the operating lever of the quadricep, then you realize that it doesn't even reach a 45-degree angle. So it's actually closer to being a neutral lever than it is to being an active lever. So let's keep this simple. I'll break it down. Let's say you're a 200-pound man and you're performing a 225-pound squat. Correctly, by the way, which means that your upper leg goes below parallel. So you're a 200-pound man, and you get 225 pounds pressing down on your spine. Let's do what I said earlier, some basic math. So let's say his primary goal is to either work his quads or his glutes, which is what most people do the squat for. Now his body weight is 200 pounds, but of that body weight, a third of his body weight is above his legs. So in other words, he is squatting 150 pounds of his body weight minus his legs plus 225 pounds on the loaded barbell, equaling 375 pounds total. Now since his tibia or his lower leg has a magnification factor of around 20 due to the length, that would mean that the 375 should be multiplied by 20, equaling 7,500. Now, this number, 7,500, should then be multiplied by his 33% lever efficiency factor. So the reason his efficiency factor is only 33% is because the tibia, or the lower leg, is tilting forward at about 30 degrees from vertical, or again parallel with gravity, which translates to 33% tilt, or 30 divided by 90 degrees. So we could say that the tibia is working with about 33% efficiency. I don't know about you. If I had an employee who was working at 33% efficiency, I would fire them. Now this calculation brings it down to a total of 2,475 pounds, which is then divided by his legs, since he is using both of them, obviously, equaling 1,238 pounds per quad per leg. Now I understand that this seems like a very high number per leg, but it's basically just because of the length of your leg and the fact that you have the weight at the end of it is magnifying how much weight is actually being loaded. So basically the benefit to this case, all 30% efficiency that he's getting is all of the weight that he has added together, 375 pounds, and he's still only getting 30% benefit. This is not a good trade-off. 30% benefit and all of that spinal compression, torque, and reciprocal intervention? I don't think so. Now, by comparison, if you do a seated leg extension, you literally would only need to do 60-pound weight for this same load on your triceps. 60 times 20 with a 100% maximally active load. So your lower lever is working maximally, and it will produce exactly the same poundage, or translating to 1,200 pounds per quad, which is the same as the squat. And you would engage the muscle in a far superior manner with a far better resistance curve and far better gains. So now I'm sure some of you will say, yeah, well, okay, maybe the leg actually only does go to about a 30-degree angle during the squat, but the femur or the upper leg, it does go horizontal or parallel with the ground. No, you're not smart. Now, while it does get perpendicular, think about what's happening to the lower leg. The lower leg is doubling under the femur. So this is your lower leg and this is your upper leg, and you're squatting, this comes down, this goes down. Well, guess what happens, huh? It fucking doubles. It doubles. It's doubling back under the femur, which is effectively shortening the femur. You're cutting your lever in half when you do that, and compromising your knee. Now, when we're talking mechanics, there's a thing called reciprocal intervention. I know you guys have heard me say that many times. And in this case, it happens when you were to draw, during the squat, let's say you were looking at the person from the side. I'd like you to draw a vertical line straight from, say, their heel, straight up with gravity, through the hip joint. If you were to do that and look at it on paper, you'll realize that instead of being the length of a regular femur. You cut it in half, and it's literally probably actually less than half of the length of a regular femur. So again, you're just stripping your efficiency away. So you're getting a very active, very minorly active femur and a very shortened femur, both of which are not good. So needless to say, a lever which is shorter than a longer lever generates less efficiency in muscle loading. Think back to the rock and the 2-foot lever, or the rock and the 8-foot lever. But should you understand again the reason this is happening is because you are taking your upper leg lever and your lower leg lever, and you are essentially folding them on top of each other, which results in a shortened lever. Because again, the weight is pushing straight down. It's pushing straight down, and your levers are folding. As well as having no consideration for reciprocal intervention or range of motion, your range of movement is severely restricted as well. And of course, we know again that more range of motion is better. The only reason people perform these bullshit squats, even if they're done correctly, is their fucking ego. So, here's the problem. By working both the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings too, by the way, you're compromising them all. It's so much better to isolate them, because as soon as you try to combine the glute and the quad exercise, you literally compromise both by more than 50%. Now, there are so many other factors, and I mean, literally, I could keep going about this shit forever to discuss why the squat is terrible and why it's not a good one and alternatives, but I'll be making other videos about this. But this should be enough for you to get started with. It should be enough for you to understand that the squat is something you should not be doing. You should be doing leg extensions, and you should be doing, let's say, either step-ups or I mean, whatever for your glutes, but not that. Now, I'd like to remind you all that I squatted myself for the better part of 15 years for various things. Everything from rugby, football, martial arts, bodybuilding, powerlifting, and strongman training. I mean, dude, 15 years squatting 3 or 4 days a week, every week. You guys don't want to know. I did learn the proper biomechanics of the squat, and I was a very heavy squatter, and I was a very good squatter. Again, that being said, I long since stopped. I have not performed squats in many years, and I regret that I did not learn this information sooner. I would have adapted sooner, and I would have even larger, more defined legs than I have now. If, for whatever reason, you want to go to the gym and do squats because you enjoy them, because they're fun to do with your friends, or whatever, this is, of course, your business. Just understand that you're damaging your body when you do these things, and you're not being efficient with muscle growth. You're simply doing it for fun. It's not my business. However, I am in the business of efficiency and building muscles, building bodies, building minds, and making people healthy without destroying them. I'm not in the business of doing exercises for fun. Now, I would encourage everyone listening to this to please re-listen to it again. Now, you don't have to skip over the ranting parts. I apologize for that. But please, just do not disbelieve me just because it conflicts with what you know already. You don't know. You don't know because you haven't researched. I've been researching my entire life. I do know. Everything I said is factual data. Simply take a moment, look into it yourself. Your phone is in your hand all day. Google anything I just said, you're going to see I'm right. Now, take a second, subscribe. Go to my website. Keep watching these videos. They're going to keep being uploaded. I'm going to keep explaining exercises. I'm going to keep explaining why your personal trainer is an idiot. I'm going to keep explaining why your best friend has no idea what they're talking about in regards to exercise, and neither do you. I'm just trying to help everyone. I'm trying to educate all these people who have been performing exercises wrong for years. All of these people who have been lied to and misinformed by the fitness industry grinding machine, the meat grinder, people just trying to make a buck, and they don't care what they do to you. Now, I'm fully aware that I'm going to become an extraordinarily controversial and hated figure. It has already begun. I enjoy it. I can't get upset about a couple people hating me when I'm pretty sure soon millions will. Doesn't bother me, because these people are not uneducated morons, and they're closed-minded fools who are too lazy to even Google the information I am providing them for free. Regrettably, in my opinion, these are people who will make no progress and will probably continue to be wildly inefficient with their time and their exercise, and will probably more than likely continue to injure themselves, their friends, whoever they're helping, and their clients and continue to steal their clients' money while keeping them attached to them without giving them results. For more free information about exercise, nutrition, self-coaching, weight loss, and anything else scientifically related to improving your life, please go to my website, Help Yourself, www.castlinprogress.com. There you will find well over, I think, 50 articles I've written about various subjects. All the scientific literature is linked at the bottom of the article, so you can know it's not bullshit. You can check it out for yourself. And I'd like to remind everyone, I do all of this for free. No one pays me to do this. This is my time and my money. I'm a very busy person and I still do this. No one is coercing me, no one is sponsoring me, no one is paying me. I'm completely separate and not affiliated with anyone, any company, or any gym. I don't want to be. Now, you guys understand me. All it takes is a little bit of willingness to learn, a little bit of effort to get started, and then you can keep going and make every change in your life that you want to do. We're all in this together. We're all going to do this together. I'm going to be here helping and guiding you. If you got a half an ear to listen to my podcast while you're busy, have a great day, everyone, or a great night.